Hey everybody, Jason here. In this video I'm going to build an adjustable canoe seat for the front of my cedar-strip Prospector Canoe. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so the wood that we're going to use for this project is a piece of solid ash. Now you can use cherry as well. Really any hardwood will do. Hardwood's better than softwood because it's better for weight bearing and less chance it's going to break on you. Ash is typically used in canoe building for the gunnels and thwarts or yokes or seats. So yeah, if you can find some ash, then it'll typically match what you have on your canoe already. This piece is 36 inches long by 4 inches wide. I'm also using a pre-made canoe seat. Now I've always used pre-made canoe seats. They're not that difficult to make, but for the time you spend making them plus the cost of materials, you can definitely buy a pre-made seat for less than it costs and the time it takes to make one. But if you want to make your own seat to, feel good that you made your own seat, by all means, make your own seat, and it's not that difficult. So the thickness of this piece of ash is 1 inch thick, and I'm gonna rip it down. My first piece is gonna be 1 inch wide, so the total size will be 36 inches long by 1 inch wide and 1 inch thick. Then I'm gonna cut another 2 pieces, and I'm gonna reduce the width down to 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so I've got my pieces of ash sitting on top of the canoe right now. This isn't how it's going to be attached later on, but I want to make sure that my measurements are accurate. And like I said, I cut this length of ash to 36 to begin with, but I think the finished length is going to be around 32 inches. So I'm going to double check all those measurements. My main points of consideration on this canoe is that I have scuppered in walls, so I've got these spaces. And so when I go to bolt this sliding seat mechanism in place, I have to make sure that I can put a bolt down through the ends of the rails in through the solid part of the in wall. And so that's what I'm laying out to double check those measurements. As far as how I lay it out, it makes sense. I have 2 pieces that are 3/4 inch thick, and those are the pieces that are on top, and then my thicker piece that's 1 inch by 1 inch is my cross piece. So I'll put the seat up on top, and you'll see that it's going to end up looking something like that. All right? So as it turned out, my finished length was 33 inches and 3/8. So for my cross piece, I don't have to be as accurate. Obviously it has to be accurate, but I don't need to match two, so I'm just going to eyeball it. My main concern here, again, is being within the block. I also have these screws that help to hold the in walls in place. So I'm just gonna sit my cross piece to the back side of the screw, and then just looking straight down, I'm just going to draw my line of where this needs to be cut. So then, just as a reference, because the canoe is on an angle, right, the bow gets pointy, so I'm just going to scribe a little angle on this side, just so I know later on that I'll need to shape that so it fits in better. Okay, so because I'm using my table saw and I'm using this miter gauge, I'm able to cut my angles on the end, so later on when I have to shape them, I don't have to spend a whole lot of time. What I'll do is I'll end up just using a rasp to shape the ends and just get it to more precise fit, but for now I'll just cut on an angle by just creating a slight angle with the miter gauge. And so looks like what I'm going to go with is about a 10-degree angle. That actually turned out really well. 10-degree angle. Okay, so my cross piece is in. Now what I'm doing is I'm just laying back my length pieces, my two long pieces that the canoe seat will attach to, and next I need to determine the angle of these pieces. So I know the angle needs to be 90 degrees, right? So I can't have these angled inwards or outwards. It needs to be 90 degrees from here so that the seat slides nice and easy. You want it to be as straight as possible, or I should say I want it to be as straight as possible. So I'm just laying them in place, and then what I'm gonna do is I'll mark it when I have it 90 degrees and this end in the right spot on that block. Then I'm gonna measure over and I'll match the same measurement and make sure that I've got the 90-degree angle. If the measurement on one side is longer than the other, then I'm going to basically adjust it until it fits according to this front position. Well, I've got the holes drilled in my ash pieces here. Now, what I'm going to do is I've got these brass carriage bolts here that I'm going to be using. Now, these are typical for hanging canoe seats. They're very long. I'll have to cut them down. But what I'm going to do is just basically dry fit the two side pieces onto the cross piece, put it on the canoe just to eye it up and make sure everything's okay, and then I'll continue. I don't want to cut the width of the seat or the length of the seat, however you look at it, until I know that everything's going to fit just right. Okay, well, I finished sanding everything. I'm gonna let the dust settle, and then I'm gonna give everything a couple coats of marine varnish. I'm gonna thin down the varnish for the first coat so that it really penetrates deeply, and then I'll give at least one more coat, and then I'll start assembling. Okay, so I've given the components of the adjustable seat a couple coats of varnish, and now it's time to start assembling. Okay, so what I'm doing is basically I'm dry fitting again before I do the final assembly. I've got it laid on top at the moment. When the final assembly comes, I'll be assembling the whole adjustable seat underneath the gunnels, but doing it this way I'm able to just lay it on top, and with the drill holes that I've already created, I can just drill through them and match them on the gunnels. Okay, so yeah, so I've got one more hole to go. Another thing I'm doing is I'm just using these brass carriage bolts and just dropping them down through the hole as I go, and then I know that it's not moving around and all the holes will match up. So there you have it, an adjustable seat for the front of a canoe. Now, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe. Okay? Thanks for watching.